Safi mtazamaji, jioni ya Jumanne hii Rais mstaafu Uhuru Kenyatta pamoja na timu yake walikutana nyumbani kwa marehemu Profesa George Magoha ambaye pia alikuwa waziri wa elimu nyumbani kwake mtaa wa Lavington hapa jijini Nairobi. Bila shaka bado kuna shughuli au mipango ya kumpumzisha kwenye harakati za kumwomboleza na nini na mambo kama hayo. Basi Uhuru Kenyatta pamoja na timu yake waliona isiwe kesi bwana, wafike pale angalau wajiunge na familia, marafiki, ndugu pamoja na jamaa, angalau waone ni kitu kipi ambacho kitafuata. Lakini pia kwa kweli nimependezwa sana na namna ambavyo wamezungumza. Basi kama kuna mtu mmoja ambaye unatakiwa kusikiliza speech yake mwanzo mwisho ni Chebukati. Yule jamaa haogopi William Samoei Ruto, trust me. Na nataka nikwambie kitu kimoja, hiyo ndo uzuri wa kuwa clean. Unajua sasa hivi ukikuta mtu anamnyenyekea kabisa William Samoei Ruto kwa namna moja au nyingine, mchunguze vizuri, utapata kwamba kama hana kesi basi kuna kitu ambacho alikifanya kibaya kwenye kipindi hicho ambacho kimepita. Kwa hiyo inabidi sasa mlambe Ruto na nini ndo mambo yakae sawa. Nakwambia mimi nataka nikupe clip ya Matiang'i jamani, msikilizeni huyu jamaa mwanzo mwisho. Nakwambia ametoa points nzito kabisa. I wish tungekuwa na viongozi kama hawa, straight to the point, hakuna issue ya kulaumiana sijui hapo unafanya vibaya, tuende hivi. I think Matiang'i ni miongoni mwa viongozi wazuri kabisa tumewahi kuwa nao. In fact juzi hapa tumepiga story kana nakwambia Chebukati sasa sijui anakujaje kwa mdomo wangu jamani. Rigathi Gachagwa eti juzi kati anasema eti Matiang'i alikuwa mpumbavu, sijui alikuwa anatumia sijui nguvu na nini. No, trust me, Matiang'i was the best, kwa sababu ni mtu ambaye straightforward, zungumza maneno ambayo watu wanasikiliza, so issue kutenganisha watu. Amesema kwanza Kenya kwanza kuna waongo kweli kweli, watu wanazungumza uongo 24/7 ili kufurahishana watu. Msifurahishane watu kwa uongo, furahisheni watu kwa kazi ambazo mnazifanya. Nataka usikilize, sitaki nizungumze sana, nataka usikilize speech ya Matiang'i. Huyu jamaa trust me, haogopi Gachagwa, haogopi Ruto, na mwisho wa siku kweli ndio kitu ambacho kina mata. So tumsikilize hapa Matiang'i, sikiliza mpaka mwisho. Ukimaliza, kwa mtu ambaye unanicheki, labda umekutana na video yangu kwa mara ya kwanza, jiunge na familia kwa kusubscribe, alafu mengine yatafuata.
Your Excellency, the fourth President of the Republic, Your Excellency, our wonderful, gracious First Lady, my colleagues from past service in government, the wonderful family of Professor Magoha, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, we've been together with this family since you asked us last week. Immediately this happened, that we tried to step in and work with them to deal with what Professor was handling just before he passed away. So we had the opportunity to sit with Michael, Joseph and Dora to deal with the function that happened on Saturday, and now we're here. And for that we sincerely thank you, Your Excellency. On behalf of my colleagues, many of them have sent messages of condolences. And Your Excellency, when you called us round, all of us who were in the country were in that meeting with Michael and with Joseph and Dora. Some have had to travel because of commitments. But I'm here today with my colleague, my sister, Professor Margaret Kobia, who served as a CS for Public Service. My brother Ukuri Atani, who served as the Lord Chancellor of the Exchequer. My brother Peter Munya, who served as Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture. My friend Joseph Musheru, who served as CS for ICT. And my brother Eugene Wamalwa, who served as Minister for Defense, and who also represented all of us at the burial in Game on Saturday. To be frank with you, I have a very long story to tell about Magoha, because as you know, I probably am one of the very few people who are privileged to work with Magwa very closely for about 7 years, 6.5, 7 years in government. Your Excellency, you may recall that sometime in November 2015, when you moved us around, I woke up in the Ministry of Education with all its troubles at that time. The whole story will be in my memoirs when they're published. But I remember that phone call at midnight when you asked me, umesikia yale nimefanya? I said, yes, sir. Takueleza kesho what I want to do. I was in Mombasa sorting out Waitiki because I was acting Minister for Lands then. Anyway, long story short, when I came to Nairobi, you spelled out what you wanted done. Then we started the work of putting together a system that would help remake our education sector. Then in around January, February, you appointed Professor Magwa as the chairperson of the Kenya National Examination Council. And I remember that memorable Saturday morning, as though it happened yesterday, when you rounded us up, together with my peers then, Belio Kipsang, Nancy Masharia, Secretary TSC, Professor Magwa, and myself. And you spelled out clearly what you wanted done. You said, must bring an end to examination cheating in this country. My colleagues know what we go through during those situations. Because you said, mwaje ujinga wa kusa mtihani hapo. And you said, this year, it's not going to happen. Ama mutafute njingine. Then that was the clarion call or order that we needed, which led to the formation of an amazing fraternity in government during some of my happiest days in this life. We teamed up, as you directed then, with CS Musheru, then CS ICT, my brother, the late Joseph Kaiseri, the CS for Interior. And you imposed a very punishing schedule on us. I'm now saying that after I've left the government, but you imposed a very punishing schedule on us, wanting updates on a fortnight basis of what you were doing to address the mess in the education sector. And we worked slavishly, but very happily, because you outlined specific results you wanted, and all those wonderful people. And may the Lord bless the late Joseph Kaiseri, and now my brother, Professor Magwa. I have never been happy, and I've never worked with such wonderful people. From the Kenya School of Leadership in Mount Kenya, where we went that time with Joe Musheru, Joseph Kaiseri, and Magwa to meet with the DCCs and the education directors as you instructed us. We spent time there in the cold, trying to build a system of collaboration between the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Education to manage exams, to make sure we sort this out. Professor Magwa was so committed that he actually traveled to Uganda himself, because when we were looking at various systems around and we thought we could borrow a leaf from here, borrow a leaf from there, and so on, that which was close, he was so committed that he traveled himself. He said he doesn't want hearsay. He came here, he brought the report together with a critique on what we would do and change the whole thing. And we had a very enjoyable time doing a hard but pleasurable task of remaking the education sector. And through all that time, because even when more changes happened in government, I ended up in the Ministry of Interior, you insisted that we will not dismantle the tripartite partnership between the Ministry of ICT, Interior, and the Ministry of Education. As Professor Magwa himself liked to put it, we are joined at the hip. And so we must work together all the time. We spent long hours meeting all those wonderful Kenyans, and God has blessed us with wonderful people, called district commissioners, county commissioners, regional commissioners, regional directors of education, and all those people. Every day repeating to them that what President Kenyatta wants is ABCD, because Professor Magoha said, we serve at the pleasure of number one, and our job is to outline his vision and ensure that it's delivered. All the tasks you gave at the Ministry of Education, and let me say here without fear of contradiction, because we live in a country where people are so dishonest, they love lies, they behave as if there was nothing happening yesterday, they are lecturing us now about things they think they are new. If Professor Magoha had not served as the Minister of Education, Your Excellency, your plan for NEMIS, the National Education Information Management System, will not have worked. And let nobody take credit for this. This was President Kenyatta's plan together with the World Bank, and that's how we got to where we are, the Data and the Minister of Education. Your plan on expansion of school infrastructure through 20,000 classrooms would never have worked. Your reform of the school bursary system would never have worked. The school desks program, I remember when you demanded of us that we move money to the villages and get carpenters in every village and have the desks done in the villages. Then you told Professor Magoha and myself, you don't want a story, you want results. And we sat, at some point, even some of our senior officers were trying to be a little bit smart, where they would cut corners. Joe helps us get a hold of Safaricom and the data from there for M-Pesa and payment. And we're able to move money on the digital platform very easily, across villages in the country. And many, many things that were done to remake the education sector in this country because of the commitment and the work and partnership that we did together. Professor Magoha was the turbo engine, and my colleagues can bear me out. Professor is the one who charged the room. Every time we were in the room, he's the one who supplied the energy. He was always vibrant and he wanted things to be done. And so, as one of our colleagues, CS Rachel Mamo, said the other day when we met, she said this, and frankly, I agree with her, that we celebrate Professor and we sincerely submit ourselves to the Lord and say this man actually completed his work. He was full of energy. He did all of his work. There was nothing that you did with Magoha that was undone. He did all of his work. He lived his full life. Was never bored any minute. He never knew a moment for stories. And I have to say this, because again, this is another aspect of our society. In a country where these days we hardly go through a day without being reminded about regions, who comes from what region and what region is important, what region should own government, and so on and so forth. Not once. And we hired across the board, we had many discussions. Your Excellency, not once did Magoha entertain a discussion about people's backgrounds, about people's ethnicity, about people's regions. Magoha was driven by only one consideration: delivery and excellence in getting the work done. His disdain for politics was not concealed, and his impatience for mediocrity was real. He had no time for pettiness and small talk, and small things around town. He was always driven for results. He said, what does number one want? That's what we do. And this is the way we go. For all of us who worked with Professor Magoha in cabinet, and for me and my colleagues in the education sector in the last 5 or 6 years, we'll be everlastingly grateful to God for the life of this, our wonderful brother. And if there is anything we can do in this world as a tribute to Professor Magoha, in our small way, wherever life takes us, wherever life finds us, we just try to emulate that thing. Honest, sincere delivery of service to the people, period. Nothing else matters. And because of that, you know, a lot of work was done in our country. Your Excellency, there are many things to say. There's problems that you demanded solved and how you wanted. For example, a reorganization of the CQI program by the World Bank. We would never actually have discovered the challenges with that program if Magoha had not served as the Minister of Education. The program was going to be held hostage by certain officials of the ministry, and the government and the people of Kenya were going to lose if Magoha had not been minister in that. And when you insisted that you wanted to see for yourself the data and the facts and everything and how they were done, Magoha delivered. There wasn't a day that you gave assignments and you said things be done in a particular way that Magoha was saying or even grumbling. The other thing I never heard from Magoha for all the time that I worked with him, I never heard Magoha once whine and moan and grumble and complain about systems and people and what have you. He moved in one direction. When Professor Magoha stepped in the room, you knew a leader had arrived. When there was an argument, you predicted Professor Magoha's side even before the argument began. The side would be where the facts are, where the truth is. That is Magoha's side, no matter what. So, honestly, this erudite scholar, very solid academic of unparalleled credentials. There are many people in this world who claim academic credentials. Magoha didn't have to lecture anybody about them. He lived them and you saw them. Since he passed away, I've been called by so many people, colleagues we worked with in the education sector from across the region, because people know how useful Magoha was, for example, to the Inter-University Council of East Africa, to the university standards and the university commissioning credentials across this particular region. Some of our countries in the region could not actually approve their medical schools without Professor Magoha looking at their curriculum. That's how solid and important he was amongst us. I hope that in celebrating him, we emulate those good things he did. Finally, I am not in authority these days, so I can only share hopes. I hope that somebody somewhere in this environment, in the context of all these things that happen and the cacophony and the noises that we hear every day, many of them unhelpful to anybody, will think about how we can immortalize Professor Magoha's contribution to our society. Either one university will create a chair and name it after Professor Magoha, or a scholarship program and name it after Professor Magoha, or name a research program after Professor Magoha. And actually, if people were to be very honest and sincere, like the universities, and do something like that, a lot of us ordinary citizens of this country who admired his life and had an opportunity to work with him will make our small sacrifices and contribute to that, because that is the greatness of our society. Magoha exhibited the best of Kenya, not the worst of Kenya, the best of our country. And I believe when I see some of the things I see somewhere, someplace these days, I believe Kenya is better than this. And I think about great people like Professor Magoha. And let all of us go forth and do whatever we can. There's only one request I have, and I was asked to make on behalf of my cabinet colleagues. Mama, I'm told there are 1 or 2 kids that Professor Magoha was supporting for school fees. Michael, my cabinet colleagues, those of us who served with Magoha in cabinet, under the leadership of our president, we will make a contribution, because the president told me to talk to my colleagues in cabinet to see whether there's anything he can help us to do to support 1 or 2 of those kids that Magoha was supporting. Let none of them be stranded on account of our brother's departure. Our president is keen on this. He has invested a lot on this. He will help us and guide us to try and help some of those kids so that they are not stuck. And we will work together the way we have worked together, quietly with my brothers and sisters ex-PSS, so that we also honor our colleague, because I think it's a morally right thing to do. It's the honest thing to do, and even in the face of God, it's the just and sensible thing to do at this time. We wish you all the best. All my colleagues who are not here, some of whom have traveled, I've sent their messages of condolences. They're here. Michael, you know we are in very deep conversation with you on things that we need to do, some we don't need to say here. And I want to assure you, we will work with you. We'll do the best we can. No one, let's not pretend, no one will fit in my shoes. Let's not pretend. No one will fit in my shoes. We can only do the best we can, the way God will help us, or whatever God will help us to do, just to alleviate momentary pain and help you move to the next day as we all continue walking the journey of this life. May the Lord shine his face upon you. May the Lord hold you with his mighty right hand. May the Lord bless you indeed. And Michael, there's nothing more challenging than to walk in the footsteps of a towering father. May the Lord bless you, so that as you sustain that name and that generation, God will raise you up to keep to that particular legacy. Thank you.